Prospects that raised their draft stock after their pro day. Malachi Corley, wide receiver from Western Kentucky, versatile weapon, 5'11", 215 pounds, clocked at mid 4.4s in the 40. And then Blake Watson, running back from Memphis, failed to receive an invite to the combine, ran 4.440. 41 and a half vertical, 11 foot 3 inch broad jump at his pro day. Do you think Corley's going to be there at 54 if the Browns are picking?
I'd say there's a chance for that, and the reason I think so is maybe he's a little more raw as a route runner than some of the other guys that could be available in that situation. I've talked before about Troy Franklin. He seems like a guy that could slide out of the first round. Roman Wilson is another guy that could potentially be there, maybe a little more polished than Corley. But I think with Corley, you have a guy who can play a little bit of a role right away because he has that Debo build. The ability at 210 plus pounds, to take jet sweeps, short passes, and breaking. You get out of a tackle and all of a sudden you got 5 or 6 extra yards. In the NFL, every extra yard matters. So it's a question of, what can you get out of him now? And is that worth, taking the chance that you may only be able to use him as a gimmick for a little bit before he gets up to speed? And then with Blake Watson, was a guy that, I kind of watched some highlight film of. He was really interesting to me, some of the plays that I think he had in pursuit against Navy, which is, fluid, explosive, got up the top speed very quickly. And you mentioned, and all those running backs on that screen that you mentioned, one guy that didn't get listed is Kenneth Gainwell, a guy I absolutely loved coming out of college. And, Watson's got some good productivity. You look at his numbers, 1,500 plus yards of total offense, 480 yards receiving, 1,152 on the ground, 17 total touchdowns. Very productive, and he actually weighed in his pro day. It looked at about 200 pounds, so good size there. I think the concern with him, at least from a Browns perspective, and we know this matters with the Browns, Blake Watson's 24 years old. And I think, maybe that shouldn't necessarily be a disqualifier, and, most teams wouldn't think about that. But for the Browns, we know Andrew Berry tries as hard as he can to avoid drafting those older prospects. So maybe that disqualifies Blake Watson, but if the Browns take him, you certainly have the potential for an exciting, change of pace running back.